Hello, and welcome back to Be.Live. Be.Live has always been about being yourself and living your purpose. And lately, I've been thinking that purpose is not always something you discover by looking farther ahead. Sometimes you discover it by looking down at the ground, at the soil, at what is already around you. The more time I spend outdoors, the more I realize that soil has a lot to teach us about purpose. Healthy soil quietly supports life. It holds water, it feeds roots, it creates the conditions for things to grow. And most of that work happens where nobody sees it. I think people can be like that too. We spend so much time comparing ourselves, trying to keep up, trying to prove something. But maybe part of living your purpose is understanding what you can contribute where you are with what you already have. That is really where this series, From Dirt to Purpose, comes from. In the first episode, I ask you to do something simple. Go outside and look at the soil around you. No buying, no major project, just look. Because once you pay attention to soil, you begin to realize that good soil is alive. And that is what I want to talk about today. What actually makes soil alive? When I started planting more trees and trying to rebuild the forest, I used to focus mostly on what I could see. Is the tree growing? Are the leaves healthy? Do I need to put more fertilizer or water the plants? But eventually I realized that a huge part of the story is happening underground. There's an entire living system beneath our feet. Bacteria, fungi, earthworms, tiny insects, plant roots, and the organisms are so small we will never see them without a microscope. These organisms are breaking things down, moving nutrients, creating spaces for air and water, interacting with plant roots, competing with one another, and most of the time helping one another. There's a lot happening down there. If you can see up above the solar system, so vast, I can just imagine looking down is as vast as the things above. And the healthier that underground community becomes, the better chance plants have above ground. That changed the way I think about soil. Before I thought of soil almost like a container. I put soil, put a plant in, add water, add fertilizer, and wait. But healthy soil is much closer to an ecosystem. And ecosystems work because many things are happening together. So, what makes soil healthy? There's no single perfect soil because different plants have different needs. But healthy soil usually have some basic things going for it. Healthy soil has organic matter, it has air, it can hold water without staying waterlogged, it has living roots, and it has biological activity. One of the easiest places to see this is in a forest. In a forest, nobody's fertilizing the forest. Nobody's digging around every tree. Nobody's watering the forest, and nobody's collecting every fallen leaf. Yet the system continues to grow. Leaves fall, branches falls, plants die, roots grow and eventually die. Animals die there in the forest and leaves waste. Fungi and microorganisms break all those materials down and and the nutrients are recycled. The soil becomes part of that cycle. That does not mean every forest has rich soil and is perfect. Some forests grow on poor soil, but the system is there, and the system is very good at using and reusing what it has. And that is something we can learn from. When gardeners talk about improving soil, you will hear the term organic matter a lot. Organic matter comes from things that were once living. Leaves, roots, plant material, animal residue, compost. All these things break down, they become part of the soil. Organic matter helps soil hold water. It helps improve soil structure, and it becomes food for many soil organisms. That is why fallen leaves start looking very different once you understand soil. Before, you'd see a mess, fallen leaves everywhere, dried leaves. Now you can see resource, energy for the soil. I'm not saying you should let wet leaves pile up all over your driveway. Use your common sense. You have to clean it up. But instead of automatically throwing away these leaves and branches, ask yourself, can this organic material, can this become mulch? Or can I put it in a compost pile? Or can I leave it under the tree? A lot of the material we need to improve soil is already around us. We just tend to throw it all away. Another thing, healthy soil needs air. We usually think about plants needing just sunlight and water, but roots need oxygen. Good soil has spaces between its particles. Those spaces allow air and water to move. When soil becomes badly compacted, those spaces become smaller and the soil becomes hard. So the roots will struggle. Water has a harder time soaking in. And when heavy rain comes, the water can move across the surface instead of entering the ground. This is one reason soil conditions matter when we talk about flooding. Of course, flooding is much more complicated than soil alone. You need rainfall, drainage, rivers, roads, buildings, and topography all matter. But at the level of a garden, a farmer, or a piece of land, healthy soil can generally absorb and hold more water than badly compacted or sealed ground. That is one reason I started looking at rain differently. Instead of only asking how much rain fell, I started asking, where did the water go? Did it soak in the soil or did it just run off? Did the soil hold some of it? Did the plants slow it down? Those are important questions. And we will come back to water later in the series. Roots are another part of the story. When we look at the tree, we notice the trunk, the branches, and maybe the fruit. But underground, the roots are doing a lot of work. They anchor the plant, they absorb water and nutrients, and they interact with microorganisms in the soil. Plants release compounds through their roots, and these affect the microbial community around them. Some fungi also form relationships with plants. You might you may have heard the word mycorrhiza. This fungi can help some plants access nutrients and water. That is one reason living roots are important. The garden filled with living plants is doing something very different underground from completely bare soil. So, one very simple principle is keep something growing. It doesn't have to be a huge tree. Grass can be ground cover, herbs, vegetable, native plants, something with roots in the ground. Another thing nature does well is diversity. You walk through a natural forest and you will not see one species repeated over. You will see big trees, small trees, shrubs, vines, ground cover, grasses, ferns, different insects, different birds, different root systems. And that diversity creates resilience. The same idea applies to soil. Different plants support different organisms. Different roots supply different spaces. So some roots are shallow, some are deep, some are widespread. Some plants feed pollinators. Some drops a lot of leaves. Some help bring nitrogen into the system through relationships with bacteria. So this is one reason I became interested in permaculture. A lot of permaculture begins with observing how nature works and trying to design around those patterns. Not copying nature exactly, but learning from it. And one of those patterns is diversity. Another is keeping the soil protected. Bare soil may look neat, but it's exposed to sun and heavy rain. Bare soil can be very hot, and then water carry particles away. Weeds often move into the empty spaces because nature doesn't like leaving soil uncovered very long. That doesn't mean every weed is good. Some are invasive, some can cause problems. But I have learned to ask one question before immediately removing something. Why is the plant growing here? I didn't plant this. It's a weed. The habit of observing before acting is probably one of the most useful things I've learned. So, what can we actually do? You don't need expensive soil products. You don't need 20 bottles of supplements. Just start with the basics. Protect the soil, add organic material when appropriate, keep living plants growing, avoid disturbing the soil more than necessary, and create diversity. That alone can change a lot. So here is our one thing for the earth for this episode. Find one small area of bare soil, maybe under the tree, maybe beside your house, maybe inside a large pot, and cover it. Use dry leaves, clean grass clippings, use wood chips if appropriate, or shredded pieces of paper. Whatever clean organic material you have, just remember, don't pile mulch directly against the trunk of the tree. Leave some space around the trunk. And then after covering your soil, watch what happens. Check if the soil is cooler under the mulch. Does the soil stay moist longer? Are insects appearing? Does the material begin breaking down? That is the beginning of a cycle. Something that looked like waste starts becoming useful again. And maybe that is a good reminder for us too. A lot of meaningful work happens quietly. Nobody sees the fungi underground. Nobody applauds the earthworm. The bacteria gets absolutely no recognition. But the system depends on them. Purpose can be like that. You don't have to be famous for what you do to matter. You don't have to copy someone else's life. You just have to understand what you can contribute and just start doing it. Maybe your contribution begins with one tree, one garden, a compost pile, one piece of soil that becomes healthier because you took care of it. That's enough to begin. And thank you for joining me for another episode of Be.Live. This has been episode 2 of From Dirt to Purpose. In the next episode, I want to talk about something many of us need more of: slowing down, going outside, and getting away from the screen. And what science actually says about spending time in nature and feeling grounded. If this episode resonated with you, just like and share.